It's the height of the Sydney summer, and these are the kind of lines you'd normally see outside a cricket match. 800 people are packed into this ballroom, 250 have been turned away, and they've gathered for what feels like a revival meeting. They've come to hear the high priest of climate change scepticism, Lord Moncton.
Good day, Australia.
With aristocratic panache, the British Viscount delivers an Al Gore-style PowerPoint presentation in which he pillories Al Gore.
And then, of course, the arch liar of them all, St. Albert Arnold Gore Blimey. And he says, I believe it is appropriate to have an over-representation of factual presentations on how dangerous it is. Of that 300 years to be.
Listening at the side of the stage is Australia's foremost climate change sceptic, Professor Ian Plimer. His best-selling book, Heaven and Earth, is a demolition job on the scientific case for anthropogenic global warming. And like Lord Moncton, he's viewed by many as an anti-hero. Opposing the green agenda, he claims, has not only become politically respectable, but politically advantageous.
In Australia, the mood is changing very quickly. It was certainly political suicide a year ago to stand against that popular political decision. Now it isn't, and I would imagine in 3 or 6 months' time it again will be very different. The community is shifting their view very, very quickly, and I suspect that our leading politicians in the government haven't got the ear tuned to the public masses.
The Australian capital, Canberra, boasts the greenest parliament in the world. It has grass growing on its roof. But its upper house, the Senate, where the government does not command a majority, is nowhere near as environmentally friendly. It's already twice rejected the Rudd government's emissions trading scheme, its environmental centrepiece, the last time on the very eve of Copenhagen. The Senate's obstructionism has already handed the government the trigger to call a snap election, a climate change election. But would it be wise to pull it?
The politics of global warming have changed since the last time the Rudd government tried to enact its emissions trading scheme. There's the failure at Copenhagen to produce a more comprehensive agreement. Massachusetts has made it much more difficult for the Obama administration to push its own green agenda. And then there's ClimateGate, the accusations that scientists have been massaging the data. Once considered a major selling point, have Kevin Rudd's environmental policies suddenly become a liability?
It's the first morning of the new parliamentary year. Kevin Rudd has joined other lawmakers for an ecumenical prayer service. But the fragile pre-Copenhagen consensus on climate change has broken down. The opposition has a new head, Tony Abbott, who won the Liberal Party leadership on the eve of the last emissions trading vote by ousting his predecessor who supported the government's scheme. Not that he'd utter the words in church. Abbott once described climate change as absolute crap, a view that's made him increasingly popular, as the Prime Minister was forced to concede.
Yeah.
Had a good start, mate. Well
yeah, look, it's been okay.
Are you running?
Still a bit scary, but there we are. Okay, see ya. Yeah.
Justice for all! That's our goal!
A grassroots movement that's defiantly anti-green. Farmers gather on the lawns of Parliament House to protest against new environmental laws which prevent them from clearing their land. But it quickly turns into a rally against the Rudd government's entire green agenda, including the emissions trading scheme, the ETS.
Mr. Rudd, Mrs. Wong, have a look outside. It's starting to come unstuck for you. I'm sorry about that.
Come on! There's something of the spirit of America's Tea Party movement.
Here he is, the man of the hour.
For Tony Abbott, it's yet another platform to hammer the Prime Minister's proposals, something he's been doing almost constantly since Copenhagen.
It's a great big tax. We don't need it. And as far as I'm concerned, our job this week is to save Australia from Mr. Rudd's great big tax.
When Mr. Abbott became leader, many pundits thought he was toxic. But a new poll out this very morn has shown the opposition ahead of the governing Labour Party for the first time in 3 years. No wonder he's got such a spring in his step.
Let's ask you about your popularity today. Does it vindicate your tough stance on the Green agenda?
Look, I'm encouraged, but there's a long, hard road to tread. Okay, thank you.
And the path led to the first question time after the southern summer break.
And the government, and I renew my question. Does the Prime Minister have the guts to have a nationally televised debate about climate change, my direct action versus his great big tax?
Yes, and let us have the debate here in the People's House.
But then the Prime Minister hit back, attacking the opposition's newly unveiled policy to ditch the ETS and to rely primarily on planting thousands of trees.
Because if you go out there and publicly say that climate change is absolute crap, what do you think people conclude when you put out a piece of paper, that you're actually serious about it? That's why people don't trust the Leader of the Opposition on climate change.
Resplendent in his Speedos, what the locals call budgie smugglers. This is Tony Abbott living the Australian good life. The country's remarkable post-war prosperity, its status as a lifestyle superpower, has been built on its vibrant resources sector. It's the world's biggest exporter of dirty coal. So it may make electoral sense for Abbott to turn the environmental debate into an economic debate.
This is really Tony Abbott's position. He's making it about the economy. It's not simply about the environment, but also about the economy. And for a lot of Labors, the Labor Party's working class base or lower middle class base that are mortgaged to the hilt, being reminded of the higher costs of living under an ETS, I think is a politically wise move on the opposition's part.
As this photo opportunity inadvertently suggests, Tony Abbott faces a gruelling uphill struggle. Kevin Rudd remains personally popular. No first-term Prime Minister has been ditched since the Depression, and the need for some kind of action on global warming remains, for now, a majority view. But in this post-Copenhagen phase, Australia is witnessing a new politics of climate change, and in defiance of the prevailing wisdom, it's put a wind at the new opposition leader's back.
Coming up on the programme, it's